All right, so Holly, you've been a VA for a while now. Tell me why business owners, whether they're a solopreneur, a small business owner, when they come to work with you, what are they screwing up? Because I know it's from talking with business owners and understanding their frustrations with trying to work with VA and getting things. They admit, like, hey, it wasn't just them; it was me too. So give it to me from your perspective. I've already got theirs. What do business owners keep messing up when they're trying to start working with a VA?
What I've experienced in the relationships that haven't gone so well is the expectations weren't clear or
Mm.
the why behind the ask, right?
Oh, that's
Do
important.
this ask. Some things are very easy, right? Schedule this appointment. Hey, no problem. Here's where that's going to fall off the lines. What's the priority of this? Is this due next week? Do you need this in order to book your next appointment that you asked me to book? As a VA, I want to know why you're asking me so that I can prioritize on your behalf, right? Making sure you don't have to worry about any of that. Instead of me having to come back and forth with questions and more questions and more questions, just giving all the info you need right away, that saves so much time and headache and hassle.
That is incredible. So one of the biggest things when I'm working with business owners, and one of the biggest things that we find is that people think that they have a time management problem, but what they actually have is a prioritization problem. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's an incredibly important insight that you have because I have a feeling, if I had to go out on a hunch here, that a lot of the times the reason they're not giving that to you is because they're not even sure themselves, right? And that's a fantastic exercise I think that you should go through together is what
Mm-hmm.
is your top priorities? Do you want me to focus on booking you on podcasts because that's part of your growth strategy right now? Do you want me to focus on emails because that's going to free, like, it's such a time suck for you, that's going to free you up? Like, what do you want me to what are your priorities that you need to get to, and then what do you want me to prioritize to enable to get you there? So I think that's a fantastic insight that if you are a business owner or a solopreneur and you are looking to use a VA, you need to have that conversation with yourself, and then you need to have that conversation with them. So, what what's a good
Exactly.
way to do that? Like, I mean, do you have a process whenever you're onboarding? Do you like it when they deliver you kind of like just write it down on a list? Like, if you're in successful relationships that you've had, working with other business owners, how have people done it well?
The best ways that I have found is when we have like an onboarding session, right? And I come with my questions, right? As a VA and as the assistant, my job is to make your plate lighter. So I don't want to ask you to come with all these things written down and here's a nice pretty task. Here's what you need to do. Like, just brain dump, right? That's what a lot of business owners are good at, right? They have so many ideas in their heads. Some of them are great at getting them down on paper. A lot of them are really great about telling you, and you can hear what you're excited about, right? I can
Okay.
hear what my executive is excited about. I can hear what his priorities are, and I can also ask, hey, I think that you're saying that the podcasts are important, right? Am I understanding that right? That alleviates or that relieves any miscommunication, right?
Mm,
Repeating back. So your really good VAs will just really make sure that everyone's on the same page.
okay.
Um, Another thing is having at least weekly battle rhythms, right? Let's have
Mm.
a weekly one-on-one so I can make sure we're still on the same page, that your priorities haven't changed as a business owners, because especially in small businesses, sometimes new things come up and that has to take the priority. And
Absolutely.
so having that weekly one-on-one to make sure you guys are still in a good cadence together, rowing in the same direction at the same pace, that's key too.
What do you like as far as, so for this weekly cadence? Walk me through what that looks like. What we're setting up a meeting agenda. Is it for 30 minutes? Is it 60 minutes? Is it dependent on how much work you're doing? I'm assuming that probably factors into it. And then what's kind of like the ideal flow to a meeting like that?
typically I like to meet for about 45 minutes, or at least set that time aside, right? If we don't use it all, that gives us more free time to go about our tasks.
Love that.
I always aim for that, and then I, as an EA, so VA is very broad. I provide executive assistant
Okay.
services.
Good distinction.
So and so I do a lot of calendar management and protection. So I leave that extra 15 minutes for them to go do whatever they need. So that's just like the time frame that I always prefer and try to give to my executives. Um, you know, we're always very conversational, right? We're chatting about like how was the weekend or how was your kids' play, just to kind of like break the ice, get into the meeting. All right, so this is what I was working on. We talk through the various things that I was working on as a VA, providing updates, getting any of my questions answered, and then saying, hey, you were working on this. Do you have everything you need? Do you have, like, what more do you need? How else can I help? What are you doing that might be able to be delegated? Things like that. So just having that sounding board, having that accountability, right? I think executives don't think they can use their assistants as an accountability partner. And I really can't.
No, I think that's good. I think there's a level of humility that comes with that as a business owner. That is a transition. I see this as an executive coach and coming in, and it can be difficult because a lot of times when you're pointing out anybody's weakness, right? It's not a comfortable thing for people to be like, oh yeah, just tell me all the things I'm doing wrong and I'm going to be totally okay with it. But it's one of the things that they also value about working with a coach, and I think there is going to be an element of that to where that would like take the relationship with your, VA, EA, whichever one. It's like the role of having somebody who's coming alongside you to help free you up to, essentially do higher revenue generating things for your business. It's like there's an element to where you need to eat a little crow sometimes and just listen and be like, hey, you told me that these were the things that are important to you, but then every time we get on the phone, you talk about this more than you talk about that. So we need to, has your priorities changed, or are you distracted and not focused on the thing? Or are you not relinquishing the control to me that you said you were going to? You're micromanaging. Like you have me doing your email, but you're still checking your email. So do you ever see that as a problem? Because that's a hard thing to relinquish that control, and it's like, oh, but she's not going to be able to do it the same way I do, or exactly as good as I do it. How do you overcome that objection?
I mean, that's entirely true. I'm not going to do something the exact same way that you might do it. That's just a fact. But right doesn't equal perfect, right? I was reading
Love
a
that.
book about wisdom, right? And my friend wrote this book, and I was like, that's mind blowing to me. That's so true. Right isn't the same as perfect. So even
That's a
though
good point.
I may not get it perfect, even though it may not be the same as you would do it, it can still be right. Right? I can still get the meeting booked. It may have my language. It may have my, my the vibes I'm sending out. Like I'm cheerful, right? If you're like more hard hitting, like that's still okay. The meeting will still get booked. You'll still get on and do your high level things that you need to do with the meeting. Um, and there's always that time for like recalibration, right? That's what those weekly meetings are for. Some people have daily meetings, right? That's what that time is for. Making sure like, hey, we're on the same page. And VAs, VAs and EAs, what they want to feel empowered that they have a voice, right? They
Mm.
can be holding you accountable, and that's where the micromanaging is. I mean, it just ruins everything, right? Like
Yeah,
you do need
you're
to
just shooting yourself in the foot. I totally agree.
right, like you do need to manage your VA. They're not mind readers. You do have to let them know, right? There's not. You can't just be like, you got it. Like good luck. You can't say that. you do need to manage, but you can't micromanage. For example, I was working with an executive once who wanted me to do her email and calendar management, among other things. But then she would go in and reschedule things I had on her calendar. And there was one instance I emailed, this stranger lady that we had a meeting set up with. And I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened and why that meeting got rescheduled. So I bumped it back to the time that we agreed on. And she's like, oh, okay, that's great. Thanks so much for the heads up. My executive came to me the next day saying, why did you move that? I said, well, I didn't move it. I don't know how it got moved, so I just put it back to the way that you had asked in the first place, the way that was confirmed with the other party. There was nothing in your email, right? Because I went into her email to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Yep.
So, no, I did that. And so we had to kind of sit down and be like, all right, if you're going to ask me to do something, then let me do it. And if you're going to change it, I totally get that, right? That
But you got to tell me.
but just let me know.
Right.
Right.
Yep. No,
Let me
I
know.
think.
So now, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
That's it. I'm just saying, now we're making the company look bad. We don't know what we're doing on our side.
That's a really good
And
point.
that's not my goal. As your assistant, I want to make you look great. I want to make you shine. I want to represent our company well. And those things, when that happens, especially with external people, that does not give us a good voice.
I totally agree. For all the business owners out there, listen, there are different types of credibility that we talk about a lot in business. Have you written a book? Have you, done, there's all these different things, that we can talk about. And some of them are subconscious. And some of the elements that can be subconscious levels of accountability, it's like, oh, this person has an executive assistant, that without me, asking questions or anything, that tells me some things. Number one, it tells me they're making enough money to pay somebody. So, it's not the success or whatever, but it's something. And there's a lot of people faking it out there. So it's like, well, if you're using an executive assistant, it's like they're at least making money. I know that much. And then the other side of it is like, it tells me like, oh, they've probably kind of got their crap together a little bit, like there's a little bit of a status symbols that comes with having an executive assistant. Like you've made it to a certain level, either from a systems perspective in your business or whatever. So it's like, there's all these things. It's almost like a really nice suit. If I wear a really nice suit out, people are going to look, if it's $1,000 suit or something like that, and people know that it's $1,000 suit, they're going to go, oh, okay. I mean, he could be faking it, but it's a lot less likely that he is. And I think in the day and age of, that we live in right now, people want that authenticity. They want that credibility. And to the business owners out there, it's like, this is a great way to kind of signify that. Have a good working relationship with an executive assistant, and it will give you a boost, not just with productivity, but kind of with brand as well, as long as you're doing it right. So, and it's like any other relationship, whether we're talking about a marriage or whether we're talking about, working with people that you manage, communication is huge. So don't, like, I love what you said. You're not a mind reader. My wife knows me better than anybody. Still can't read my mind very well, right? Well, she can definitely read mine better than I can read hers, but I'm a simple creature. But yeah, so it's like just yeah, there'll be an adjustment period. It takes a little time to kind of tweak things. So but I think what you said there was really important. Let me ask you this. One of the things on the second half of this podcast episode, I'm going to be talking with an international VA, because anytime people are considering having any kind of assistant, there's normally, if it's not going to be somebody who's like coming into the office, there's normally two modes of thought. Number one, I can hire somebody, local to wherever I live, whether that's US, UK, whatever, basically within roughly the same time zones. They're probably going to be a little bit more expensive, just paying for that. You don't have the currency arbitrage that you have in some of these other countries like Nigeria and the Philippines. So, there's that consideration. What would you say to somebody who's like, what are the benefits of working with somebody local like you, even though I have to pay a little bit more out of pocket for that?
mean, of course, the communication piece is a huge benefit. You and I can talk. We understand many of the same references. If you need to make phone calls or travel arrangements, it's easier for me because I know the land, right? I know where all the cities are. I know where, you know, all of those kind of nuances. It's harder for someone who's not local or who hasn't spent time within your country, right? So the United States, right? If they haven't spent time here, they may not know. And I've even bumped into that working with EAs in the Philippines. Amazing, amazing people. They're excellent at what they do. This gal that I worked with even helped to train me in a lot of the responsibilities that I have taken on as a VA. But she would reach out to me like, hey, my executive needs to go here. Can you help me find a hotel? Because I don't know how to look, right? And so we had a really great partnership because I was able to help her. I was able to learn from her. So there's definitely that, but just having that,
Local
not
presence.
right, yeah, just knowing what's around, it kind of relieves the weight, right? Versus asking someone who's just unfamiliar, it just kind of brings a peace of mind in a sense.
Yeah, I think that that's an important aspect, and it's not discounting people. I've worked with international VAs; they do fantastic work. So it has nothing to do with that. It's the benefit, and let's call it what it is. I had a VA one time. She was amazing. Just calling it what it is, her accent was hard to understand sometimes. Like it really
Sure.
was. Now, the majority of any of the communication she did for me was digital and everything, so it wasn't that big of a deal. She had fantastic. I don't. I think she would, would use like a proofreader or something whenever she was typing stuff, but her emails were amazing. Anything that she wrote like that. But it was challenging sometimes, even when we would talk and like work together, just to understand certain things, or she would make references like what you said, and I'd be like, oh, what does that mean? Like, I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like when time is money and we're trying to be as productive as we can, sometimes that can just get in the way a little bit. So, that's just another reason to be like, well, yeah, you might pay a little more, but then if I need to get booked to New York in February, you're gonna, or I'm coming from Vegas trying to get to the East Coast, and you have an understanding of like, oh man, he's not going to want to do a red eye. Like that's going to be tough, or whatever the case is. There could be
Yep.
certain elements there. So pluses and minuses to each one. I think if you're looking for a VA, both can be great. You just have to kind of weigh, both of those different options. So one thing that I want to talk about, because you mentioned this before, your kids are sleeping right now. And, you were like, I'm getting some work done, before they wake up. This is kind of this is not exclusive to, VAs, EAs, anything like that. This is kind of anybody, who works from home or different things like that. Um, my company, Life Builder, when we're coaching with people, one of the things that we talk about is how work-life balance is a lie. It's a lie meant to try to keep you as productive as you can at work. In the world in which we live in, even if you have to go into a physical location, we believe in work life harmony. And because it's like, are you telling me you've never taken a break at lunch to like pay some bills or, make some phone calls or run some errands? It's like you do personal things at work. Let's not pretend like we don't, even if you're in a physical location. So one question that I have, for you is, tell me how many kids do you have? Like, how old are they? And talk to me about the difference between, project based work. Hey, Holly, I need you to get this done for me by this time. And then hourly based work. And then how do you figure that into how you structure your day?
So I have three kids. They're 9, 7, and 4, and we homeschool actually.
Oh,
So
that's great.
my
I was
kids are.
homeschooled too.
Oh, okay. I love it. And so I love the work from home and the VA role. This is why I got into it, right? Because I was
Mm,
able to prioritize their education while still providing value to clients, and
that's
it's
very
been
cool.
it's been great, right? And so for me, my day looks like a lot of early mornings, more late nights, right? I was up until about 2 o'clock last night working because that's what
Oof.
works for my family, right? So, and we talk about that international, may not work in the same time zone. Even your domestic folks may work in their own
They're still up late sometimes.
and for meetings, right? Like I schedule either in the morning before we're starting school or in the afternoons, So for my family and for my work and my clients, I'm setting aside my mornings to do school, to help the kids with what they need, make sure that their education stays a priority, and then I'm setting aside my afternoons to be to be working, to have the meetings, to do the legwork really
Mm.
of the day. Now I'm very responsive to both. Right in the mornings, if you send me a chat like, "Hey, I'm right on it," it's not like I'm inaccessible. In the afternoons, if the kids need something and I'm busy breaking down a project or whatever it may be, they can come in. Mom, can I have a snack? Like, yeah, of course, go ahead. You need help reaching a cup? I got you. Go grab a cup, and I'm back to work, right? And
Okay.
so it's like you said, finding that harmony. What works? How do we keep everything afloat? And thankfully, I've found something that works for me and for my family, and something that's worked for clients. And as the business owner, you just have to make sure, like, hey, is that what you need? I've been
Mm.
turned down for roles that are like, well, we have an hour meeting Monday, Wednesday, Friday that you would need to be a part of. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to work out. And so, setting those expectations while you're interviewing, while you're
That's
getting to know
fantastic.
each other, that's a big piece on even domestically, right? What are the expectations for a project or hourly based?
And that's another great point of challenges that you may have, whether they're, you're hiring somebody internationally or not. If you have meetings that you want your VA in, like you said, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday meeting at 9 a.m. Central, that's going to be tough for somebody in the Philippines unless they're overnighters, and some of them do that.
Yep.
It's not going to be a good fit for somebody like you. And that's where I think it's so great, because I have met so many great assistants, over the years, that work in different ways. So it's like, it's no hard feelings. Find the one that's the right fit for you. Go interview 3 or 4. Try, meet with a couple international people, meet with a couple local people, and just see what really, before you get started. Obviously things can change, but it's like, what really is going to match the culture and the pace for whatever it is you're trying to do. So I think that's really good advice, and I love the fact that you aren't afraid to say no to people. Um, my company's called Life Builder for a reason. I believe in building the life that you want, and it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. And a huge part of that is boundary setting. And it's just, listen, this is my this is my zone of genius. This is how I know I'm effective. Give me project based work. Don't worry about, I can get it done, same day. Just don't be like, it has, unless it's like a rare occasion. I'm sure you can make exceptions, but if it's going to be like all the time, like, oh, this has to be done in the next 3 hours of that, it's like, that's fine. It's just not a good fit for me, but you can probably find somebody who is. So I think that's really good. Um, oh, right. So the next question that I had for you is, what, I'm a new business owner, or a solopreneur or whatever. I've never had an assistant before. What are some of the top 3 things that you say when people are paying me? So not the most, maybe not the most common things they ask you for, but and it could be, these could overlap. But what are the 3 best return on investments that people get when they're working for you? How do I get the biggest bang for my buck, when working with a VA? The things that you free me up to do that are massive time sucks and enable me to go and to do that. What's essentially, give me the pitch here.
Yeah. Well, I think that email and calendar management is a huge time suck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are like the things that VAs do and EAs do, but it's the thing for a reason. Excuse me. It's the thing for a reason. It's distracting, right? Your email is pinging you all day, right? That can be distracting. It's keeping you from focusing on your high energy strategy work that you need to be doing to pull your company forwards. Same with calendar management, right? If someone needs to reschedule, that is easily something I can do. And if there's back and forth, gosh, it takes me as the assistant a long time sometimes. There is One time I had a 23 email chain trying to get one meeting booked.
Oh
This
my
is
gosh.
right, and that has something to say with communication standards, and but I'm like, hey, well, I will handle all of that, so you don't even have to worry. It will be on your calendar
Right.
as a business owner.
By the way,
I'll
business
get it done.
owners, whether you're working with a VA or not, get some type of calendar scheduling tool, like a Calendly or something. It will, I wish
Yes.
I had that when I was in corporate. It wasn't around at the time. It will save you and everybody working with you so much time. So just throwing that out there, it's a must. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, and so those are the big ones for a
Okay.
reason. Um, they're if you
So
trust
calendar
your
management, email management, and I'm sorry, was there a third one or did I miss that?
the third one that I might recommend is more of a tool
Okay.
than I would recommend a note taker. Right now, as an assistant, I have taken on the roles of facilitating our executive meetings, right? Like our weekly meetings with the executives. I have taken on the role of facilitating that so my executives can actually focus on what we're talking about in the meeting.
Okay.
They don't have to worry about taking the notes. They don't have to worry about like, oh, or some agendas will have time slots. Like, oh, we're running out of time and I'm trying to focus, but I gotta pay attention. That is hard on a business owner when you're trying to stay up out of those weeds. You want to talk about how we're moving forward, how we're being represented, all the various things to build your company. Let your assistant facilitate those meetings for you. It might take a few times, right? I cried after I led my first one, right? It's ridiculous, right? But then my executives after that first time, like my executives didn't have to worry about taking the notes from writing down the action items.
Mm.
So I would say let your assistant run it, and also if you're in remote workplaces, I would say use a note taker, right? I
Okay. Yeah, and
just leave.
and for those of you that aren't familiar with any of these, some of the popular companies I think are like Fathom, Otter.ai. So these are things to where if you get on a Zoom meeting or whatever the case is, it will literally kind of like dictate the majority of the meeting. And now they're getting really smart to where they can actually summarize too. And I actually don't know from a functionality perspective, do but I assume they do. Do they have it to where it can automatically be set up to just send you the notes when it's done?
Yeah, it absolutely can. I use Fathom. Cannot recommend it more highly. It provides an entire transcript and who's talking and kind of like text bubbles. It provides a summary. It provides the key action items I can highlight and bookmark. That lets me know, like, hey, I'm sending out these emails to you afterwards, so I can keep track on my own end. But then I have all my meetings here, right? I review them frequently, and I can also share them with my executives or whoever. And so that just it provides accountability. It provides peace of mind that I'm not going to miss anything, and if I do, it's still there. And so that's another thing, kind of a dual hat. Let your assistant run it, but don't be afraid to use your note takers to
I
capture
think that's
everything.
fantastic. Yeah, because one of the big things that we always folk about is the 3 Ds of prioritization and delegation, which is do, delegate, and delete. And
Mm-hmm.
you might have to do the meeting, but you can delegate the note taking. Now, I could delegate the note taking to a VA, but then that's taking up 30 minutes of your time to sit on the call and then just do a very manual process of just typing out notes, right? Where you could probably be doing other things that are much, it's like all you really need out of that meeting is the action items. It's like, okay, who do I need to follow up with? What do I need to send over? It's like, that's really all you need. So the other side of it is me as the business owner, I could be on the call. I could be focusing on the notes and summarizing. But one thing I learned early on in my career is that my I do my best work on a call when I'm not taking notes for the sake of taking notes. I'm taking notes for the sake of like, okay, what did she just say? Okay, yep, I want to make sure I ask this question, right? I'm fully present in the conversation versus thinking, Okay, well, she said that we need to, okay, so that's an action item. And I know she's talking, but now my mind's drifting, thinking about all the things I need to do for that. And it's like that it can hurt the conversation, right? We get less out of it. And, the results of my sales career were clear because I was able to focus on being so present. So if you are able to use an AI note taker, it automates, this automation is a form of delegation, and it automates you having to take notes. It automates the communication between you and your VA because it's going to send it right over to you. And then from there, it's like you have this very efficient process that has been set up that doesn't require either one of you to do anything other than to just be present and do your work. So I really like that's a nice little system that I like there that doesn't just delegate something to you, but it also automates the process of how we're getting you the information. So that's a great little hack. Check it out, everybody. And they're not expensive too. I mean, the note takers. I mean, they're very reasonable in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I use the free version, and that's worked out
I,
really great for me.
I love that price point.
Right?
free is something I can afford. So this has been great. What would you say? For somebody who is wondering, I have a couple employees. Maybe it's just me, kind of a thing. Um, when am I ready to bring on an assistant? What how much is it going to cost a month, like at the minimum? I know it's going to vary based off who you talk to, but like for you, people who are wondering like generic price points, pricing models, do you do it by hour, like you get 10-hour blocks? Do you do it like so much a month and you get this many hours? Walk me through a little bit of like just how you've structured your business, because I know it's different for a lot of people. But then give some criteria of like, hey, you're probably ready to at least having the conversation to talk to a VA if you kind of meet these criteria.
And that's always kind of tricky based on the business owner, right?
Okay.
But I think a general rule of thumb for when you're ready is if you're spending more time on your $10 tasks than you are on your $200 tasks.
Now you're talking my language. I love that.
Yeah, right. At some point, and Dan Martell has a whole book, and it's a whole thing, very popular. Like,
Fantastic.
buy back your time.
Buy
You know,
back your time. Absolutely.
buy back your time. Let me, give your VA the tasks that can be done right. They may not be done your way, but they can be done right, and that return is much lower than the return you're going to have doing the strategy, doing the sales calls, showcasing your brand. All of those things are much higher cost, much higher energy, much higher return. That's what you love. That's why you started the business, right? So you do that. Give those $5 tasks, those $10 tasks. Give those to a VA. So you have to kind of decide, okay, am I spending 50% of my time doing my high energy, high level stuff, and 50% of my time doing the little things? I'd say 50% at least is where you're like, all right, in order
That's a
for
good
me to keep
threshold.
growing, right? Yeah. So in order for me to keep growing, I need to do more of this, which means I have to make my plate lighter with what's on it already. So
Yeah.
that's kind of generally where I would go. It of course kind of depends how aggressive you want to be with your growth and how aggressive you want to be with your strategy and sales and all of those things. But that's kind of my
Well,
general.
I'm going to add on to that from the opposite perspective. One thing that I love to talk about is opportunity cost. So in the book, and if I highly recommend people go read it. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. He's got great stuff on his podcast and YouTube if you just want to watch something kind of quick. But I mean, you can Google what his buyback formula is, and basically what he's doing is he's just breaking down your hourly rate. It's a pretty simple formula, and it's so important to know as an entrepreneur or an executive what your time is worth. A lot of people really don't know. Like think everybody is an hourly employee. Okay, doesn't matter. You're like, oh, Steven, but I'm salary, or I do, some. No, 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 no. You are getting paid for your time by the hour. I don't care how it's technically structured. Obviously, it can be a little challenging sometimes if you have, irregular income as an entrepreneur. It's like, hey, I eat what I kill. If I did 20,000 this month, but 10,000 the next month, it changes. Same thing with salespeople. I totally get that. Okay. But to that point, just a quick anecdote there. I would just say, if that's you, take the past 3 months and then average it out, because that's probably a pretty good moving average, unless you are like incredibly seasonal. Some people, like, I know I worked, in certain positions, and it was like I was B2B. I did 12 deals a year, and 8 of them were in Q4. Okay, so I'm getting paid way more in Q4 than I am in Q3. That's fine. I can average out what quarters 1, 2, and 3 are going to look like, and then I'll just plan separately for Q4. So all of these things, if you feel like you can't figure it out, you're being lazy. Okay, you can figure out what your time is worth, and then when you know how much your time is worth, look at what you do that is the most profitable thing that you do for your business. What is the number one thing that you are doing to drive revenue, to earn more income, whatever the case is. And then say, if I could get an hour back a day, and I'm going to take this $20 task, and Holly's going to help me out with that. She's going to take that off my plate, and it's going to free me up for an hour. How many deals, how many things that are my top revenue drivers, if I recommitted this time to doing more of that, could I close, if I close one deal and it's $20,000, if I had an extra 5 hours, how much more pipeline would that get me? How much more likely? I mean, if I can close one extra deal at $20,000 and it takes me 40 hours, well, if I paid you, I'm gonna do some quick math here. If I paid you, well, this is a great plug for what we were talking about. If you don't mind, how much roughly would you be an hour?
Sure. Me personally, I'm roughly $35 an hour.
$35 an hour. I'm going to show people why this can be a steal. Okay. So at $35 an hour, and again, don't hold her to it, guys. Like, I'm sure she has different packages based off, how you do things, but roughly at $35 an hour. And that's a pretty good going rate for what I've, worked with people here before. If you, in a month, call it even a quarter, if you can free me up for just 40 hours over 3 months, okay, I would have paid you $1,400 in exchange for an extra, what we're talking about is about 16 hours a month. That's not crazy. Okay. I'm being super conservative with this calculation. I am assuming that they are only going to get you back 16 hours a month. And I promise you it'll probably be more. But assuming that super low calculation, business owners, you would have paid Holly $1,400 over 3 months to get you 40 hours back. And then if I look at that and said, could you use those 40 hours to get a $20,000 deal? Well, that's an insane ROI. I'm sitting here doing the calculations on again for people who are like, why does he keep looking down? That is a 1,428% return on your investment with your VA. Tell me what stock you're going to buy this year that is going to get you 1,400x. It's not going to happen. Okay. So this is where one of the things that we have is called a contrarian. We have the contrarian investment portfolio. And this is something I talk about in my program. I want people to be contrarian investors. And one of the mantras that we have is that 7% is for suckers. So if I, again, was just going to use you on a limited basis, 15, 16 hours a month is what I'm paying for your time, over 3 months, it works out to $1,400. And then from there, I use those 40 hours to book a $20,000 deal. The ROI on that is insane. And the reason I want to show that upside is because too many times entrepreneurs can enter into business with a scarcity mindset in certain things. They can have a growth mindset in some, but there can be scarcity mindset around money because it may not feel like there's a lot of it. But that's why we have to think about the upside, not just the downside. Saving that extra $35 an hour compared to the potential upside, that's the difference between businesses that make it beyond 5 years and ones that don't. So just had to throw in that little little anecdote there because I know how a lot of these executives can think sometimes and be like, well, what if I use that $1,400 for something else? It's like there's not a lot of things you're going to get a better ROI than 1,400%. Just saying.
Right. You know, and if you're thinking about it, like what are you spending your money on? You know, let's
Right.
say you want to pay someone $25 an hour. What is $25 worth to you? Is it worth an hour of headache-free calendar management? Think about what else you might spend $25 on. It costs $25 to go to McDonald's today, right? Which
It's
would you rather?
barely
Yeah,
lunch anymore.
yeah.
No,
Right. So
I think
really
it's a
just
great
considering,
point.
yeah, like how much pain are you going to take off of yourself? Right? The pain alleviation with having a good EA or a good VA, it can be a huge change. It can really just elevate your entire business.
I totally agree. Well, listen, I know the kids are probably going to be waking up pretty soon, and you have some great clients that you need to get to work for. So, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. This has been great. For anybody who is interested in talking to Holly, I'm going to have her contact information in the description of the video or podcast, whatever you're looking at. So you can just kind of click there, and you'll be able to get in touch with her and talk with her if you like. Holly, I want to give you the last word. If you share whatever is on your mind, regarding the conversation that we had. What's something you'd want to let business owners in the world know out there?
I'd really like business owners to realize VAs and EAs can truly be more than just an assistant, right? They can grow to really become a strategic partner for you. And again, thinking about that return and how you're building your business long term, you find the right person and you partner with them and invest in them also, they are going to lift up your business and you so high, and it's going to be amazing for them, amazing for you and your brand and business. So I just cannot recommend it highly enough. Once you're ready and once you're at that point, it, it's a game changer.
I totally agree. I worked with Fortune 500 companies for 14 years, all through my career, and I hit all the sales awards, all the big trips, all that fun stuff. And inevitably, whenever that happens, one of the things that they do is they want to parade you around and talk about all of your secrets. How are you so successful? And one of the
Mm-hmm.
most common ones that I would say is, because everybody had one at the level I was working at with these, billion-dollar corporations. And I just said, get to know their VAs or EAs, like become close to them. Like, do not view them as just this gatekeeper, right? Like that mentality to me, it's like a gatekeeper is somebody that you have to get past. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's not how you do it successfully. Build a relationship with that person because they are literally, my wife is a physician assistant, right? An executive assistant. By
Mm-hmm.
nature, you are an extension of them, right? So I never viewed executive assistants as something to get around. I viewed them as people to partner with. And most of the time, they knew more about what was going on with that executive's life than even the executive did, right? And that's how you knew it was a successful relationship. And when I spent the time and realized that when I work with an executive assistant and that person sees, like, okay, I know it's important to my boss. And what Steven is doing is he's putting in the time with me to understand what is worthy of taking to him versus just trying to shove it down my throat or figure out a sly way to get past me, kind of a thing. Then all of a sudden, they were more likely to put me in front of them and say, yeah, you know what? You've taken the time, you've put it in, you're formatting this in a way that I know my boss, is going to find beneficial, and you've taken the time to figure out what's valuable to them. Yeah, I'm happy to recommend a meeting with you now. So it was like, I just viewed EAs as one of the best resources to leverage versus somebody to get past. And I think that goes exactly to what you're saying. It when you use an assistant as somebody who can be an extension and a true partner for you and your
Mm-hmm.
business, it will just continue. It's like a good marriage, right? It will just, the wealth will just stack on top of it. So love that one. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the time, and we'll definitely be in touch. Look forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you so much.